Hey y'all, I'm Shauna. Welcome in or welcome back to the channel and welcome to a new video. Today, we are going to be diving back into Reddit. I made a few of these videos last year and we're going to be looking at some subreddits today. I've previously looked at the anti-consumption subreddit and we're going to be looking at r/minimalism and r/simple living today. I think that these are topics that do pair really well together. I think together we can talk about some interesting things, and I want this conversation to be a little bit more positive. Sometimes the r/anti-consumption subreddit can be a little bit of a downer, and we need critical content 100%, but also it's kind of nice to look at different aspects of consumption or stuff, from different angles. I hope for today's video to be a little bit lighthearted. Maybe get you thinking about things you might not have or appreciating some things in your life, an interesting discussion, all of those things. Full disclosure, I am not a minimalist. It's not for me. I don't think that minimalism as a concept is terrible. I just don't think that it is the solution for everybody. However, that's not to say that minimalism does nothing well. That's not true either. And there are specific questions that I think minimalists are really great at answering and can offer new perspectives to, myself included. So we're going to look at two different questions today that are really similar, but they elicit somewhat different responses. And the first one is, what's one thing you stop buying that you don't even miss? That's the title. And then the person says, I've been trying to cut back on unnecessary spending and clutter. What's something you eliminated from your life that made things simpler and better? I have gone through this, so I already know what some people are saying. I'm wondering what that might be for you before we get into the discussion of what other people are saying. The thing that immediately came to my mind personally was shaving cream. I know I've been a bit annoying about it, but it's one of those things that I just bought because I felt like I had to buy it. Like if you're shaving, you must have shaving cream, but there are so many things that you could use instead or use nothing depending on your preferences. Like conditioner does well, shampoo does well, body wash does well. There's stuff that we already have in the shower. We don't necessarily need another bottle of. I bought shaving cream because I felt like I was supposed to, and not having it really showed me that it wasn't a necessity. That's a relatively inexpensive item that I don't buy too often, and I think there are some much better ones in here. So one of the first and one of the more popular comments is paper, no magazines or newspapers, catalogs, subscriptions, doing a lot to cut back on junk mail and doing online bill pay. I have to agree with the magazine kind of element of it. I used to purchase magazines probably around 2018 to 2019. And when I went on my no-buy, I stopped. I bought mostly cooking magazines. I liked Forks Over Knives, which is a vegan publication that has mostly recipes. I had maybe 5 or 6 of them, and I only recently recycled them because I kept them I must have these. What if I want to make one of these recipes at some point? No, I did not do that for literally 4 years. I don't know why I had this illusion that I was going to make them sometime in the future. It was definitely a just in case mentality. And I do have cookbooks that I have that I can refer to if I want some paper medium. I have them, so I'm going to keep them. I've never subscribed to newspapers, but I know plenty of people do. And I gotta say with mail, e-banking or similar is really great. I agree with them. Such an easy switch to not get physical paper mail, although I know it's not an option everywhere. And junk mail can be super incessant and incredibly difficult to stop. Somebody has a link here for how to stop junk mail. I have not vetted that myself, but it seems like there's at least some options. So if you have any tips for stopping junk mail, I'd love to hear them. Another popular one is random discount clothes from places like TJ Maxx, Marshalls, etc. They said, I used to buy stuff on clearance from these kinds of places and it didn't last very long. They didn't actually like it that much. It was more, I should buy this since it's so cheap. And then a lot of them, they said, have had flaws in production. They go on to talk more about their wardrobe. The screenshot will be on the screen if you want to read more of what they're saying. One of the things that can happen with these discount stores is which also happens with thrift stores, not just TJ Maxx, is the thrill of the hunt and finding that great deal, which can be that dopamine hit. And people like to go back and go back because they enjoy that experience. Some people can ingrain habits via these little dopamine boosts, these little pleasure boosts that happen with hunting and finding deals and stuff that seems like it's a great price or being cheap. I personally haven't found like the Canadian equivalent to be all that cheap. Even like 10 years ago, stuff was never that cheap. But I think it's the deals and seeing some name brands. Like sometimes you can see Ralph Lauren in there or Steve Madden, or I've seen Juicy in there, some Nike stuff, French Connection. I'm sure there's lots of brands maybe you can think of that you're like, oh wow, it's such a great deal, or it can seem like a great deal. And then that is what kind of sucks us in. And I think for these ones, my opinion is it's the pleasure and the rush that fuels it more than anything. And I can see how one could not miss it if they get their dopamine elsewhere. Or eventually if somebody buys a lot of, let's say, clothes from these places, and then your closet gets overwhelming, which I can imagine because it's a minimalist Reddit group, that you can pack your closet. It can be so full of stuff that you go, oh, this is more annoying and more of a problem than the hunting and the deal getting has been. I did myself frequent Winners when I was in high school. My high school was right beside a Winners. I was there so often, and when I would come home from university, I would go there too. I was very much a Winners gal, so I can appreciate this post in specific. Another one on here is there's a bunch of cleaning stuff. There's a few mentions of switching from traditional cleaning products to Dr. Bronner's or some kind of diluted cleaning product. I also saw dryer sheets and fabric softener. All of these things I think point to what I was saying at the beginning of buying individual products because you feel like that's what you're supposed to do. Perhaps you grew up with parents who had like a basket of cleaning supplies, and there was a separate cleaner for the toilet, separate one for the sink, separate one for the shower, or a bathroom cleaner versus like a kitchen cleaner or things like that. I know when I first moved out on my own, I had a bunch of separate cleaning products because I kind of felt like that's what you're supposed to do. I have definitely pared down, and I use mostly baking soda and vinegar for a lot of things. And then I also use it's not Dr. Bronner, it's just a different brand, but it's the same kind of thing. It's that diluted cleaning agent. And they last so long, which is awesome. And I use basically those three things for majority of the cleaning in my place. And I also don't use dryer sheets. I have since learned that the dryer sheets put a coating on top of your fabric, which can do a lot of things like trapping in odor and making them harder to clean in the future. And so I do find it nice to not have to buy a thing, like not have to buy dryer sheets or a fabric softener anymore. Like that's a money saving thing, which is great. But then the cleaning stuff, does anybody else feel that way? Like it's kind of nice to just have three things and just use those three things. You know what I'm saying? Another one, will be our last one for this post. I stopped buying stuff on Amazon because I canceled my membership. Best decision ever. I'm saving so much money by not impulsively buying stuff. One of the things that happens with Amazon, it's the convenience factor of Amazon that drives a lot of people to start using it in the first place and then creating habits around it. And I think what gets people into a lot of trouble, which is what this person is alluding to, is the almost like the automatic behavior that can emerge. You see something online or a need comes to mind or a desire comes to mind. I need a new winter mat for my shoes, or I need a new shampoo. And then you automatically instinctually go to Amazon. And I think that's how a lot of people get into the the problem spending or impulse spending on Amazon, is because it's become so convenient. They have everything and they ship and they deliver so quickly. A lot of things you can get in under 24 hours. And so then Amazon becomes that one-stop shop, and then before you know it, you're spending $10,000 or $20,000 a year on literally random stuff on Amazon because you've developed that habit. And I think it's deleting Amazon like from your computer or your phone or unsubscribing can show people, or often does show people, their over reliance on Amazon. We're now going to look at the other question, which asks, what's one thing you stopped buying that made your life simpler? Again, a similar question. I've been trying to cut out on unnecessary clutter. What's something you used to buy regularly but realized you don't need at all? One of the top comments is nails. This person says, I stopped getting my nails done professionally because I was rarely impressed with the results. Plus, the upkeep felt like a never-ending cycle. Either you'll keep going back or risk destroying your nail beds. I understand why others enjoy it, but I've decided it's just not something I want to spend my money on anymore. There are some people who are saying that they're not great at doing their nails, and so they don't enjoy doing them at home because it doesn't look great. And then also regular nail polish can chip really quickly, and so if you go to the salon, they have like the gel techniques or the gel manicures, and you can do it at home. But one of the reasons why I personally wouldn't do it at home, like buy the gel kits, is that acrylic allergies are becoming more common and have developed from like people using the at-home manicure kits in specific. It can happen when that shellac polish gets on your skin and then you cure it. That's less likely to happen at the nail salon, although it does happen. You can develop acrylic allergies from the nail salon, but it's just more common with at-home kits because people doing them are not as precise or experienced usually. But don't let me fearmonger you. And if you are on the fence or thinking about it, do research. Don't just go off one random person on the internet's opinion. I get why people do their nails, and I get how it can enhance somebody's self-confidence or being part of like a maintenance or a self-care kind of thing. I get it. I just don't personally see the value in getting my nails done. It grew out so quickly, and I just feel like it's within a few days you see that grow out of your nails, and then that personally bothers me. And then it takes a long time to get them done, and I just I can't sit there for the 45 minutes to get them done. And then they are about like $60 ish where I live to get a manicure. So if you get them done twice a month, it's $120 a month. It just is expensive, and it's not my jam, and I don't get any of the benefits from it that other folks do, so it's just not necessary. I think personally my own equivalent of this would be nail polish and potentially press-on nails, because I used to collect nail polish. I think I had over 100 at one point. I have made a conscious effort to not buy any, and my goal is to eventually have a core collection of probably somewhere between 5 and 10 max that I wear on a regular basis, because I think now I have about 33. In the past 4 to 5 years, I only purchased 2 in 2023. I regret purchasing them. That was a whole thing. I don't need more nail polish, and I go through about 3 to 4 every year, or that's kind of been the cadence for the past few years. And I'm just actively working on using up all of my nail polish until I eventually shrink my collection to the size that I would like. That's what I'm doing. And overall, I just have found storing large quantities of stuff annoying, especially beauty products, because space can be limited where I would want to store them, and that's one thing. And I also only want to buy stuff that I use. I have a lot of nail polish that just doesn't get used, or things that are kind of duping each other out because they're similar enough, and stuff that I thought would be nice to have or wanting to have variety, but I did not experience many benefits of having variety. And variety to me also doesn't need to be 40 or 50 products. Variety, in my opinion, can be 3, 4, 5 things, depending on the item. Also, I've been increasingly changing my mind about press-on nails. I used to really like them and found them to be a good alternative to getting my nails done at the nail salon. They're like a third of the price. I also, if I ever get long nails, they bother me and I want to like scratch them off. So press-on nails allow me to have them for the length of time that I would like to have them, but I've increasingly found them to be more and more annoying, and I hate the way that they look after one day. I don't like not being able to type or open things, type on my phone, type on my computer. And so I have a few that I have not used because I don't enjoy them as much anymore, and they're also pure plastic most of the time. So my opinion has changed on that as well. I think the most popular one on here is alcohol. Marijuana was mentioned in relationship to it, and this is one that I also agree with. Where I live, marijuana is legal, and so one can, drive 5 or 10 minutes and probably find a dispensary. I'm mostly going to talk about alcohol here because I don't really have much experience to talk about marijuana. For the alcohol context, I think that it can make life simpler in a lot of ways. Having money is one of them. Alcohol, it costs so much. Oh my God. I think one of the benefits of not drinking is the money saving aspects of it. Not just buying stuff from the store, but going out to get a drink. I will check menus from time to time, and it'll be one mixed drink of almost any varieties, like $15. Like $15? You can get a pop, for like $3. I know it's not the same. I know. I get it. I get the point. It just shocks me whenever I see the prices at on menus and things like that. So just for some context, I stopped drinking in 2017 approximately, and then reevaluated that choice in 2022, and then had my reevaluation moment, and then decided to continue not drinking. So I do have some recent experiences with costs and things like that, and if I were to drink today, I would have to put in a line item in my budget for it because it is just expensive. Or I don't know, how much do you drink? How much does drinking actually cost you per month? Because I would guess, and this is not even going out to socialize, but I would guess that drinking would probably cost, again, depending on how much you drink and what you drink, probably somewhere between $10 and $50 a week. Where I live, and it's not just true of where I live, but there's just a lot of drinking is just such a normal part of culture and social activities. And also when people are growing up, people look forward to drinking, and it becomes this rite of passage, having your first drink at the bar and anticipating that. And I think it's really embedded into society, and I think it's something that if you grew up in a family or a neighborhood where drinking was normal, it could just be something that you assume that you will do and not really think much about because it is normal. The normalization of it does lead people to continue that behavior and not really question if it's something that they would like to do or if it benefits them, or what cost benefit analysis, if you will, not just financial costs, but what might be other costs to maybe your mental health or your physical health or your friend groups or things like that. Overall, life is just easier and simpler, in my opinion, not drinking. There's no cognitive impairments, and for costs, as I was just mentioning, mental health, physical health, those things, but the financial costs aren't just the drinks themselves. It can also be going to the bar or to the club if there are entrance fees and you participate in those things, or if you need a ride home, cabs or transit or things like that. And I do think that there is an increasing movement or an increasing amount of people who are drinking less or not drinking at all. I hear more talk about it every year. Perhaps as I get older, that's just more people drink less. That could be a factor, or perhaps a changing cultural attitude around drinking and sobriety. And there are also a lot of alcohol-free options. I feel like in the last probably 7 to 10 years, just an increasing amount of alcohol-free wine and beer and even spirits. So ultimately, I agree that not drinking has made life a lot simpler. It's more of the side effects of drinking. I think drinking can lead to other problematic behaviors or dependency on it, or going to drinking as a coping mechanism, and then having the complicated nature or complicated relationship with that can happen. Lots of things I think can be at play here. Okay, the next one we're going to look at is the last of the minimalist questions. This one asks, just moved into my first home. What do I not buy? They say, when I've moved in the past, I've always gone straight into a shopping blitz as I work to furnish the house with things I think I need. This time, I'm trying to move very slowly and only buy things when I feel like I truly need them. What household tools, kitchen gear, cleaning supplies, laundry supplies, etc. should I not buy? Alternatively, is there anything I can buy that would give me a lot of mileage and fulfill multiple functions? The first comment on this is exactly what I would say, and I probably have said at some point. You may want to try living in the space to see if you need anything. When you find yourself missing something, consider buying that or consider options for using something else instead. If it were me, I wouldn't buy any new appliance or gadgets. Ultimately, I feel like living in your space for a while is best because we can assume, we can make assumptions about what we think we need, exactly what they're talking about, or moving can get into our brains as an opportunity to shop and kind of, if you're a shopper, kind of moving that desire from one thing to another. And I think that is potentially the biggest risk, shopping out of excitement and even impulsivity. After living in your space probably for a couple of weeks, you'd probably notice things that you do or don't need. One thing for me that might be somewhat unorthodox, I did not have a couch or a TV for 2 years when I lived by myself. I didn't own those things, so I moved without them. And I just kind of felt like, yeah, I still don't need them. And it was really great and saved me a lot of money initially. Eventually, when my partner moved in, we discussed that it would be nice to have those things, and I don't regret it. And I think it is really great for our particular lifestyle and setup, because living alone is different than living with two people. We like to watch movies together, and it's nice to watch movies in bed or on the couch or at dinner. And we got one of those. It's a movable stand for the TV, so we don't keep it in any place, and wherever we are hanging out, the TV doesn't have to be there. One of the top comments are kitchen gadgets. There's multiple comments about this, just like kitchen gadgets generally, but also the unitasker, if something is only doing one thing. And some of these things you might assume you need because you've seen other people have them, or maybe you come from a home or a situation in which one has had them. I think an example could be a cheese grater. There's a back and forth here. Do you have gadgets you would recommend against? Somebody says I'd avoid stuff like garlic presses, lemon squeezers, avocado slicers. Somebody else mentioned egg slicers. And I think perhaps the important takeaway I think of this would just be that a lot of people's even like must-haves or not necessary items, both ways, they're not universal. Right, like I agree with the garlic presses, lemon squeezers, avocado slicers, as well as egg slicers. But if somebody genuinely eats multiple eggs a day, every single day, there is a place for the unitasker of the egg slicer. However, just because you eat eggs every day doesn't mean that you need that either. And I think figuring this exact thing out is exactly why it's important to live with what you got for a little bit. Yeah, people are disagreeing with each other. Somebody says that the garlic press is an absolute must-have if you mince a lot of garlic. Somebody else says this is separate. I felt an initial anxiety and social pressure to furnish my new place and proceeded to pre-order a few big-ticket items, bed, sofa, even before the renovations were done. I regret them both. Wish I had waited a few months. I'd have a better sense of what I really actually needed and gone the cheaper thrifting route to get them instead. Some of these things you might assume that you need it, or maybe you do actually need it, like a bed frame or a sofa. Living without the item, like the sofa, or living with what you have, if you already have one, can help you figure out what you need, but also potentially prevent that excitement, buying things simply out of excitement. And also, I think what can happen is if you are spending a lot of money on a move, that can create a spending spiral and maybe some fuck it kind of going on. Like, I'm already spending $500, $2,000, $5,000, whatever it is. And you just kind of go, fuck it. What's another $500 or whatever it is? That can happen. And then of course the spending spiral. Okay, we're going to now move to some of the simple living posts. And One of the first ones we'll look at is, what's a small habit that helped simplify your life? I started spending 10 minutes tidying up every evening, and this made my morning so much less stressful. What is something like this for you? I made a video in December that talked about these life-changing habits that weren't life-changing, and I mentioned a whole bunch of them. Some of the ways that things are pitched to us are just overselling things, and also some things just don't work for some people, even if it's a great idea. But there are some habits out there that are good, that I enjoy, that you might enjoy, but just aren't life-changing. And I feel like this is kind of the vibe. So one of the first comments is about having the same set breakfast, and they've said that it sets them up really well for the day. I can understand this one as like if you're waking up early and you need to kind of get through your morning quickly to get to work. I could see having the same breakfast, even potentially having it laid out or elements of it laid out or automated, like having your coffee maker set up in the morning. These things can help reduce decision making. Even I can see this extended to things like having the same makeup routine every day or relying on a outfit formula to create outfits every day. Another suggestion is I follow a simple rule. The minimum requirement is to have dishes cleaned and bed done before leaving the house. I made it up in college when I realized after long days it made a difference to be able to sleep properly and to cook a meal quickly, having everything ready to use. I do agree with this one. I used to be terrible with dishes in the sink. That has since improved, largely via my partner. But one thing I do enjoy, and I have now gotten on board with very much, is just how nice it is to wake up in the morning with a clean sink. It's just a vibe. And of course, there's the practicality element of things being ready to use and available, like your favorite mug is clean and ready to use. Or if you have a clean sink and it's lunchtime, the elements you'd like to make lunch or dinner even are there for you. Somebody else says if it takes less than 10 minutes, I do it when I think of it. Waking up early every day, 6 a.m. for me, might not be small for some. That's probably it. Most of the other game changers are not strictly simple. I kind of agree with this one personally. I like to wake up around 7:30, and that is the thing that starts my day off right. If for whatever reason I don't wake up at 7:30, I wake up later, even on the weekend. I was sick recently, still recovering, might be able to hear it. I slept in like 8 o'clock, 8:30, I think 9:30 one day, threw the whole day off. Like I hate it. Like I hate it. I like the 7:30 because I know exactly how my day is going to unfold and I have the time to do the things I want to do and then, start my day off after that. I don't know if that makes sense, but I agree with this one a lot. Not life-changing. Like my life isn't changed if I get up the same time every day, but it's one of those things that makes life better. Oh, somebody else does mention the capsule wardrobe having helping with decision fatigue. There's lots of comments on here, which I really enjoy. Different perspectives like drinking water, weekly cleaning. Somebody else mentions giving their kids their own laundry basket. Yeah, lots of options you can go check out if you're so inclined. Okay, next up, this is a bit of a longer one, so I'm going to read it for you. Has anyone in this community made a significant life change in pursuit of a simpler life? They say that they are curious to learn from others who have acted on the impulse to change their lifestyle significantly in pursuit of a simpler life. What real sacrifices did you make? What have you learned? What did you gain that you hadn't anticipated? And what did you lose? What was the impetus for that decision? And is this still what keeps you going, or did another purpose emerge? They ask more questions, but the top comment I want to share because I think this is one thing that resonated with me personally, and it might resonate with you as well. They say, I had already been doing a very gradual declutter of our home, but 3 years ago this Easter, my mother-in-law died suddenly. I joined my husband and his brother, and we worked together to empty her house in preparation for selling it. She had so much stuff, and a large percentage of it just ended up being taken to the dump. Watching the boys go through their mother's stuff and just be so unsure and worn out about the entire process when all they really wanted to do was mourn their mother was a huge eye-opener. As soon as we finished their house, I started on ours because I didn't want our kids to have so much work to do after we're gone. I only learned about the Swedish death cleaning after the fact. A year later, their dad died and they had to go through it all again. A month later, my sister died. Same thing again. Ooh, having gone through this, I understand more than ever that stuff is just stuff. None of it is important and nobody wants it after you're gone. I walk around shopping centers now and all I can see is worthless crap, landfill in the making. Now we live for the time we get to spend together, for travel, for each other, and for ourselves. We have things we want to do as a couple as well as personal goals, and those are where our focus is now. We were never terribly materialistic anyway, but now we are particularly choosy about how we spend our money. I appreciated the crap out of this post because I went through something similar recently with the like other people's stuff component, and it kind of really hammered home the like some things that I had been noticing or learning, experiencing outside of that circumstance. I would agree that a lot of people, not every case, right? But it's the family that has to go through the stuff after. And it is true that the family typically wants some stuff, but they don't want everything or the majority of their stuff. And in the end, stuff is just stuff. And some people live their lives, with that feeling of knowing that stuff is stuff and it serves a purpose. Part of my own journey and part of my waffling comes from appreciating the stuff that you have and that it does serve a purpose and a function in your life, not just your home, but the things that you do every day that facilitate your living. Appreciating that stuff without becoming obsessed with it, without becoming obsessed with it or having your life revolve around stuff and being beholden to stuff. And I think striking that balance can, potentially be a challenging thing to do. It was for me for a long time, and I would say that I'm still actively working on striking that balance. Yeah, personally seeing how much stuff somebody else had and the fact that it was not like anything that people really wanted was like a really eye-opening experience, or more like a affirming experience perhaps that a lot of my stuff here, it's just stuff. It hammered home the idea that it's just stuff. And it really made me kind of look back at my own actions when I was so beholden to stuff, when I just, like, I lived for shopping, I lived for this stuff. And I say all the time on the channel, the shopping is rarely about the stuff. And it's quite often about all the other stuff and the pleasures of it, and perhaps even the conspicuous consumption of it all, and et cetera, et cetera. And then also that experience that I was talking about as well was not just the stuff component, like having to deal with stuff at end of one's life and how much somebody appreciated their stuff or was beholden to it, but also the family component. Having those two things together, right? Like at the end of one's life, the thing that people want more of is time with the people that they care about. Oh boy. Okay, we're going to end on what I hope is a positive one, because that one was not positive. What's the hardest thing you decluttered but don't regret letting go of? I'm decluttering my space but struggle with sentimental items. Have you ever let go of something difficult only to feel lighter after? I think this is positive. Okay, I think this is positive. So one of the top comments is about somebody whose grandparents bought them a silk dress when they were on a trip to China. They were like really beautiful and she loved them, but she's older now. She has children. None of them are girls. Their boys don't want it. And so this item didn't really serve her. And so she decluttered it to an Asian colleague. And this family has a 3-year-old daughter, and that child was extremely excited to receive the item. She cried when she let it go, but she said that the family wants to bring more Chinese culture to their family and want to wear them for Chinese New Year celebrations. And she's ultimately really happy to have passed it on to somebody else. Somebody else mentioned, once I dropped a bag off at Goodwill, I begrudgingly handed it over. Their heart ached as it was carried away. And now it's been about a year and they have no idea what's in the bag. Somebody else says, for me, it's always the keep to sell, Buffalo Exchange, Plato's Closet, Depop stuff. I always set aside high value items I want to sell that end up sitting in my closet forever. Getting rid of them feels great because honestly, it's not worth the trouble to maybe get a few dollars and stress about them until I find the time to make the errand. Oh, another good example, my grandma's china set. I cherished it, but will never have the space to display it and wouldn't regularly use it. I have my own set and hers was a potential lead risk, yet I kept it for years because I loved knowing I had it. 2 decades actually. This month I finally selected a small dish to use on my dresser as a catch-all and 1 teacup and saucer set aside to my cabinet, the rest gone. That's really lovely actually, to keep a part of the set so you have that memory but not keeping all of the things. Lego collection is another one. Makeup is another one. I think there's some really good examples, and sentimental items are definitely a hard one to declutter. And I'm not here to say like you gotta get rid of the sentimental items. And I personally tend to be more conservative when decluttering. Like I keep stuff for a long time, longer than I should, because I want to be extra sure about things. I'm not saying my approach is best. I personally wanted to avoid those feelings of regret as number one, but also sometimes getting rid of stuff, we get into the buy and declutter cycle, and I don't get rid of stuff because or initially anyway, I didn't want to participate in that, only to refill my closet with similar items that were thoughtless, thoughtless purchases. And that's what I've wanted to avoid. So that has been an element for me personally. But with these items, it is nice to know that people have given their lives, their stuff, new homes, and that I think can be the joy for some people, or the thing that makes it easier is knowing that if you give it away, somebody else could have a new home and enjoy it more than you. I feel like the equivalent for me was a bunch of school stuff. I had notebooks as well as reading books that I kept. I wasn't being sentimental about it. I was being more like, if you get rid of these things, then it's real. Like you're never going back. And I held onto them tightly. Like some people do hold on to sentimental items, and it itched at me for many years. I got rid of it in stages. I got rid of some of the paper stuff first, and I kept a couple of the notebooks. Okay, it's sentimental. I still have some of the notebooks of the notes of the books that I was reading that I cannot part with. They're under my bed. And then I had some books that were on my bookshelf, and I brought the last of them to my former high school recently because I'm not using them. I will not read them again. I have no interest in reading them again. And I gave them to people who wanted them and are now being used to educate students, which I love. If they were in my bookshelf, they would just be sitting here, and now they get to go on a library bookshelf or be part of a teacher's actual classroom library that can help students. Yeah, that was my thing. I would love to hear your example if you've decluttered something that was a bit sentimental to you, but you did a declutter and it was positive. I'd like to hear that. So that's the video for me today. Thanks so much for hanging out. Loved having you here. Love it if you would subscribe to catch more content like this. If you want to see more Reddit reactions, whether that's minimalism, simple living, or something else, I'd like to hear recommendations in the comments. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you again around here soon. Bye.